Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anna Kazi, and I'm a Public Education and Online Communications Officer at the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. I work with the Prepared BC team today, and I'm here with our lovely presenters, Jenna Nopin and Wendy Omiyasu. I'm also joined here today by my lovely colleague, Rachel Sealer, who will be helping answer any questions in the chat and provide support. We are so happy that you have taken time out of your very busy day to join us and learn about cultural safety and preparedness. We hope that you learned something new and perhaps share what you learned with your friends, family, or people you live with and your loved ones. And if time allows, there may be an opportunity at the end to ask questions as well. So feel free to pop them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them tonight. Just a note that we would not be answering any questions related to cultural safety today, just because a lot of those questions and answers require thought and special care. But we will be answering any questions related to preparedness, so feel free to write your questions down. And if you have any cultural safety specific questions, feel free to email us at preparedbc@gov.bc.ca. We'll make sure to drop the link in the chat in the coming few minutes. Before I also officially start, I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the unceded traditional lands of Coast Salish people, including Salil Batut, Kubek Bitlam, Iskomis, and Musqueam First Nations. I'm really grateful to be able to live, work, and play at this land and be surrounded by some of the amazing people in this virtual room today. I know we have folks joining us from all across the province today, so I really encourage you to reflect on what lens you are joining us from and comment in the chat so we can connect better. Being prepared isn't just about what supplies we have, but it is also about working with others around us before an emergency happens. Getting to know your neighbors and community members and building relationships before an emergency happens can make all the difference during times when it matters most. This is why this year's Emergency Preparedness Week theme is going to be In It Together. Our presenters here tonight will share some really important information on cultural safety and emergency preparedness. Before emergencies like wildfires, floods, and earthquakes happen, building strong connections with those around you, engaging with elders, and including meaningful cultural items in your grab-and-go bag and emergency bag can make a difference. During an emergency, we are in it together. And by supporting one another and honoring cultural traditions, we strengthen our ability to recover faster as a community. We're really honored to share this time with all of you and as well as our wonderful presenters, Wendy and Jenna. But before we dive right in, I want to take a moment to ground ourselves and set the tone for our time today. Cultural safety is a journey, and part of that journey means learning and unlearning and being open to that. We also really encourage everyone to be present and engaged during this time today. Many of the voices you'll hear today carry lived experiences and stories that may challenge us and offer new perspectives. So I really encourage you to hear all the stories and voices you hear today with care. And if you do feel the need to share your thoughts or ask any questions, please do so with care. We also ask that you kindly help us create a really safe space where everyone feels safe, heard, and valued. I'm also really honored once again to introduce some of our speakers today who have kindly agreed to share their knowledge with everyone on cultural safety. First, we have the lovely Jenna Nopin, who is a disaster recovery manager at Sumas First Nation. Jenna is also a regional director of emergency support services for nations and does a lot of wonderful work for Sumas First Nation and others in the community. And then we have the great Wendy Omiyasu, who is a preparedness supervisor at First Nations Emergency Services Society of British Columbia. Wendy has a lot of experience with preparedness and educating folks and training people as well on this topic. So we're really excited to have both Jenna and Wendy here. Once again, thank you, Jenna and Wendy, for coming here and sharing your knowledge with others. Before we start, I also want to go over our quick agenda for today. We will first have Jenna talk about cultural safety and its definition, and as well as share some information related to cultural safety in emergency management. We will then have Wendy share some information about emergency preparedness with some important cultural safety considerations. And last but not least, we will have some time to answer questions related to preparedness material from the chat and the Q&A option in Zoom as well.
This information here that's on the slide, the personal and family preparedness, we as FNES do offer this to communities across the province, virtually or in person. These little images are from the PowerPoint from yesterday as well. So really just knowing your hazards, making your plan and gathering supplies. So in some cases that is easier said than done, as we know, and that is really just understanding what does that mean and how do we get there. So us as FNES and working along individuals such as Jenna and her team as well, is really, we are here to help support that growth and understanding of preparedness and working alongside community members, their teams, their families, to really dive into this information that really helps them to grow into their own preparedness. And what does that mean? So surveys were done and conducted across BC after the 2017 wildfires. 54% of BC stated that they were prepared with a plan. 13% said that they had a plan that was sort of complete, and most of them had discussed plans. I was very fortunate last week to actually meet an elder that told me her plan verbally, and I was so happy. I'm like, you can come and teach for me. This is great. You know what's going on. So they have a personal plan, their family plan of what they need to do, their call out procedures. It's amazing. So why do we have to plan? And we look at this image, and one of the biggest ones is help might not get to you. So what do we need to do as a family unit, as an individual, to help prepare ourselves? So when we look at those isolated areas or communities that don't have access or are going to be cut off, can you prepare now? And that is that big conversation as a unit, as a nation, working with individuals to help build that resiliency, as was already mentioned as well, and just identifying where help is going to be if you need it. So when we look at this diagram, if you can imagine, we're trying to get prepared. We think we have a road out, but we don't. So we need to look at our own internal resources. So that comes to the next one, to say, what can we do? So if we're looking at even being at home and being prepared, when we're talking about water, for example, it is a lot of water. We're looking at 4 liters per person per day. And that's just to get by. That's just to, make sure we're fed and we're bathed and we're drinking. So having just simple cans outside with water, even if you can trap some rainwater to help with some of that as well. Again, looking at the nations across the province, we have to come up with ways to support them with the tools that they have. And really that preparedness piece is a conversation. Looking at your own storing of food. There's so many different ways of storing food, but can we take our own food sources and then prepare them as well to be taken care of within our shelter in place if needed? Looking at our own canning. One thing that's always a reminder, it's great to have canning jars. They're great. You don't need a can opener. But if you are going to store canned foods, is to make sure that you do have an accessible can opener if you happen to pack up your items and you need to leave. A lot of First Nation communities will have canned goods already. Just identifying where your canned goods are, and if you're able to support others in that as well, or sharing of goods. So if you are in shelter in place and someone has the salmon and someone has the smoked meat and someone has the fruit and veggies, looking at that internal conversation of sharing of resources. I know many First Nation communities that I spoke with, if they're on shelter in place, they will come together, they will work together and support each other through that process as well. And also looking at those special needs for individuals as well. So making sure on hand that you have those foods that are particular for those family members, the young ones that, are not going to be so easily, eating certain foods. Make sure you have their needs, as well as our elders and vulnerable population. If there's individuals that have certain dietary restrictions, you really want to pack for those necessities and not just assuming that everybody's going to eat the same foods. When we also are looking at this particular one as securing your space, is really just knowing as a shelter in place what you need to do and what tools do you have at your fingertips to really support yourself and possibly a neighbor. So if there is road access that has been cut off, can you support your neighbor or can you work together as well? Really, really important to have that available to you. As we look at just your traditional, that we've seen many, many times, a grab and go bag, we look at, those importance of food and water. Remember when you're packing food for yourself, that is food that you are going to eat. So if it is something that you're going to pack in your bag that isn't going to be edible for you, then make sure you have some type of resources in your bag that meets your level of support. Also, same with your first aid kit and medications. It's about your own first aid kit. You can build small first aid kits, you can buy the generic ones, and your medication as well. Having a list of medications. I'm working with a company right now that we're really excited when we're talking about medications. It's really the concern for the medications that are in the fridge that need to be refrigerated. And we're hearing that over and over again of that importance of making sure you get that. So I do have a plan in place. We're looking at a little tool or something that you can add to your grab and go bag, a little reminder, throw in your backpack, an ice pack with your medications as well. And that will be just something that will help our elderly population or anyone with medication that needs to be stored. Just keep that as a reminder as well that you need to fill that bag with those medications. Because in response, we don't always have access to those medications right away. I was just at an incident where there was an individual that needed medication for diabetes, and their medication was in the fridge. The only resource for that particular person was going to the hospital. In this particular case, there was a hospital available. So keep in mind when we're looking at those individuals that don't have access to a hospital within a timely manner for their medication, keep that in mind when you are creating a plan for your family so that it is a part of that discussion. And a lot of plans can be discussion based. They don't need to be written on paper. It is handy to have it written out, but the more you talk about it, the more we understand of what those individuals need within a household unit. And then just moving on, again, when we are talking about emergency supplies, there's more to emergency supplies than there are just, a piece of paper. So we have also heard from many community members of the traditional medicines that they need. That is a really important gathering process that can happen prior to an emergency and have it ready to go for your family members. If it's something that you need for your elders or your community members, and maybe you're tasking a community to set this up as well, so that it is in place ahead of emergency, so that you do have it where you can pack things up with you and go. The other one would also be to have organizations such as First Nations Health Authority or working with other agencies or individuals that can support this health information during a response. So again, at an event, of an activation, there was a young family that needed some support. There happened to be an evacuee that had all her medicines in her vehicle. She had more medicines in her vehicle than her own personal items, which I've got the little bit of goosebumps just thinking about it. She opened her vehicle and she had so many traditional medicines and healing tools and rocks and gems, and it meant the world to the community that was evacuated as well. So if that is something else that you need, that is also something through ESS that myself and Jenna both support, is having that knowledge to bring those individuals into a reception center or into a cultural safe space to really bring that knowledge and information to the community as well. I'll never forget that moment when the kids were all there and the elders had a space that they could go and sit and share their stories and share their stress and share their information, and having someone there. So there is the information about health cards and the medical and the doctors, but there's more to it than that during your response. So myself and Jenna would be happy to talk to anybody about that during a response or preparing for that as well. So feel free to reach out to us to get more information on that. And then again, looking at that preparedness for our elders and vulnerable population prior to an incident. So we really do want to help assist with those grab and go bags, but they need to be focused on that individual. You can purchase grab and go bags from, a store, 72-hour kits. They do have your immediate needs for, flashlights and batteries and bags and grab and go bags for, your little small first aid kits. But what is it that an individual will need is going to be different. So really, when you're talking to your family members, what is it that's going to help them to feel a little safer, a little bit better when they have to leave? And then also supporting them with that evacuation plan so that they really have a clear understanding of what the expectation is. During an alert, which is now been changed over with the province emergency management climate readiness, that a vulnerable population and elders can be moved out during an alert. This again is where emergency support services across the province can step in and work with those community members that need that support through the province. It does have to be approved through the province, but really working on those steps and processes to help the evacuees support during an alert for me is great, where we can get them what they need without all of the other stresses about leaving the community as well. So again, that is myself and Jenna would be able to help you with that from our teams, as well as working with the province to understand your supports. The other one to consider is transportation. Some of us do take for granted we do have a vehicle, we can load up our stuff and head out, but we do need to consider all of those others that don't have transportation for various reasons. Someone might have had a recent accident and they're on crutches, they can't drive. Maybe someone has made a bad choice in their vehicle, they don't have a license. And that's, these are day-to-day life that things happen. So in those situations, communicating with your family members to say, hey, this was in my plan, but my plan is not going to work because of this situation. Having an open dialogue conversation to know what your options are for transportation. We have elders that might need to have a vehicle that their wheelchairs have access to get in and out of. So again, looking at options for your community for that safety of them to be evacuated as well. And then help them to understand. We talk about this of the plan evacuating, but what is it that they need to know? Where are they going to get information? Do they have a family member that's going to check on them daily? A family member that's going to provide them with knowledge and information when they're on an evacuation alert to an order? And that information is so critical because the main question people are going to want to ask is, when can I go home? So if they're wanting to know when they can go home, they're not really thinking about what's happening day to day. So a lot of that care needs to happen as the incident is happening so that they are cared for during the response and then being able to get them back home as well. So I'm here with Jenna and the team. We are all here to support that and work through that process with you and your families, as they shared yesterday, that emergency guide that is there and available as well. So just again, looking at that plan and filling in those gaps of the community members that might need a little bit extra care and support. And again, looking very similar to what Jenna's poster looked like, which they developed, which is amazing. We also have our resources that we do share out. We've got 4 seasonal posters that we share out as well. And the finesse resources, we do have support for community, family, and personal preparedness sessions. So we can be in community. We'll bring our go bags. We'll show them. Well, you can touch them and see them, take pictures. We also will share out on our Facebook page for any preparedness information, upcoming events, any safety tips that are important if there's events happening. We do also have these posters that we can share out to the nations as well, through across the province, through the seasonal as well. A lot of them have been shipped out to the communities already. We also support emergency support services training in community online and as requested support through the province with JIBC courses and also with emergency operations centers. So the emergency operations center, they're activated to support communities that are impacted due to disasters or emergencies, and then also connecting with emergency support services staff to make sure they have everything they need to support evacuees. So there is that connection as well. And then we also do mitigation and prevention work through FireSmart and many other opportunities through Finesse as well, that they can support you through that preparedness prior to an incident. And if you are looking for more information and would like to hear more or join some of our teams, we are very focused for the First Nation communities. If you are supporting a First Nation community, we'd love to hear from you. If you have the time to join us and learn a little bit more about preparedness and work with the nations. And then also, if you're interested in training from a First Nation community, just reach out and let us know, and we'll connect you on that as well. Thank you again for inviting. Thank you for adding that in there. That is my email address for the preparedness@finesse.bc.ca that Rachel just had placed on there as well.